Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is Peter Lavelle, co-founder of The Gaggle and host of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, yesterday, Peter, when we were doing thumbs ups and thumbs downs, we discussed the boycott of the state of Georgia by the Major League Baseball, that they're not going to play the All-Stars game in Atlanta. And we talked about the threats to Georgia that is coming from the giant corporations, from Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, Twitter, so on. All the biggest corporations in America have all issued statements about Georgia's election law. But I think it's, because it's such an important topic, I think it's worth discussing it a little more. There is something extraordinary going on now in America. And here are the most powerful corporations, not just in America, but in the world, applying economic muscle against a state that has democratically elected representatives and has passed legislation that has been approved by democratically elected representatives. It's not to the liking of these corporations, and they're deciding to use their muscle in order to pressure the state to change its law. Not only is it a flagrant violation of democracy, but even in their own narrow terms, these corporations, who do they speak for? They don't speak for their employees. They employ tens of thousands of people. These tens of thousands do not all agree with what these corporate bosses have made, the decision they've made. They don't even speak on behalf of their shareholders, because this could have economic repercussions against these companies should there be a consumer boycott. So it is much extraordinary. Nor are they saying, okay, we don't like this legislation, so we are going to bankroll potential legislators in the next election. We want to overturn it via the next election. No, they want to overturn it now using their economic muscle. Now, I don't know about you, Peter, but I'm actually very pessimistic whether Georgia will be able to withstand this pressure. We saw what happened with Governor Kristi Noem, South Dakota. She talked a big game, but when NCAA and then Amazon started applying pressure, she quickly caved. I suspect something like this is going to happen now. And it's kind of interesting how the Republicans, this is a gift for them. Now they can really play the populist game, saying, hey, we're on the side of the ordinary people and against the giant corporations, because before they were always identified with the corporations. But now, here with this opportunity, do you really think Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, with their grasping hands out for corporate donations, are they really going to defy corporate economic power? I don't think so. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, first of all, talk about election meddling. I mean, this is meddling in the democratic process, which they have no reason to stick their beaks in. I'm actually horrified by this. And another thing that I find horrifying, but very much expected, the pile on thing. There's no courage out there, is there? They just pile on. I mean, again, this is just, upper middle class white liberals feeling really great about themselves. Okay, it doesn't materially change anything for them, except for they get the virtue signal. But all the guys and women that make hot dogs and sell beer and take the tickets and valet parking, they're all out of work. Thanks, good job, corporate America. It has a very material impact on a lot of working people. Okay, not these people in their corporate offices, sending out, a press release. Okay, there's no courage in that. Also, setting a very dangerous precedent. I can't remember the last time a sitting president of the United States, attacked a state like this. Yes. Okay, and also all of it's because it's mythology. There's a mythology about Georgia's new election laws. It's on the internet. Why don't you read it before you comment on it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And Joe Biden, what about your state of Delaware? Can they move the All-Star game to Delaware? Because Georgia has a more transparent election law than the state that you came from.
Right. That's right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. But see, this is this herd mentality,
Right.
and it's very, and it's just based purely on emotion and how it makes you look in the public eye. It'll be difficult because we're dealing. Who drinks Coke? Okay, it's basically lower middle class people. Okay, they don't have a whole lot of options because they don't have a whole lot of money. But I certainly would like to see a boycott of these companies. They exist because we exist. If we didn't exist, they wouldn't exist.
That's right.
And all their tax cuts and special deals, well, they should be up for grabs right now. Okay. Right. I mean, if you want to get into the political realm, okay, let's do it. Okay. Right. It's not easy, and democracy shouldn't be easy. Okay. It should be contentious. All right. But people need to stand up and look at this here, because this is horrifying. If they get away with this, then is corporate America going to decide what are good laws and bad laws when it comes to representation? Yeah. Really?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. They have now decided to throw in their lot with the Democrats. And so now, whatever the Democrats deem to be a law that does not meet with their approval, then they basically say, we don't like this law, and we're going to get our corporate friends to apply pressure against this law. Now, what we've already seen, I mean, this kind of has happened before. That, for instance, I mean, already we had the Georgia House of Representatives voting to remove the tax breaks that Delta Airlines has for jet fuel. And what happened? The Georgia Senate immediately refused to take up this piece of legislation. So already you can see how the Georgia politicians are terrified of taking on. I mean, that's a minimum. Just saying, okay, well, why should Delta enjoy a tax break? But this is what's happening now, is that the corporations feel so powerful, and they know that no one dares to stand up against them. They've been cheating for years about taxes. They've worked out all sorts of little tricks to avoid paying taxes, and no one does anything about them. So no wonder they can feel very confident that, hey, okay, you're going to say you're going to take us on. Go ahead, take us on. And of course, the politicians will say, oh, no, we don't want to take you on, because then we're not going to have our little corporate donations. Other than what's going to happen to us then? So hence, they really just rule everything. And these are really just a tiny group of people we're talking about. This isn't a decision made by the shareholders, certainly not a decision made by the tens of thousands of employees. These are by these woke characters who run these giant corporations. I mean, it really is a very chilling view of the American oligarchy.
Yeah, and isn't it really an interesting ploy? Is that, let's talk about Georgia state election laws, but let's not talk about our tax situation, okay? Right. Isn't it an amazing deflection away? Because, and this is what all, like the Amazon does it, they have BLM on their website, but don't talk about the minimum wage of our workers and lack of health care, okay? Right. I mean, this is the same, switch and bait. Right. Okay. And you know what? Since when are corporations good guys? Okay. Because they're not. All right. And this is just part of the
Since when? Exactly. I mean, it wasn't long ago that we kind of were under the impression that these were not good guys. These were people who were screwing their workers over, refusing to permit unionization, shipping jobs overseas, laying workers off, in order to maintain their artificially high profit margins, and basically just screwing everyone over, not paying their taxes. Now they're the good guys. They're on the side of progress.
What's so befuddling for me is that first of all, I find this abhorrent that corporate America feels that it can supersede the democratic process. That's a very bad place to go. But it's not. what they're make the claims that are making are not for a good cause. Okay,
No, exactly.
It's not a good cause.
Right.
It's just when I, and then, you know, look at all these corporations, you know, that deal with China. Okay, I mean, where, you know, there's many ways you can criticize China, but they will never do that because, you know, of their bottom line. So the hypocrisy is everywhere. Their boycotts and sanctions only punish working people. Right. That's it. Right. And that's the only outcome: punishing working people.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, in a way, it replicates what sanctions do. Sanctions. Oh, we're punishing
internal sanctions.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but you're not punishing the political leaders. You're punishing ordinary people. I mean, that's exactly the method. And Biden, or Jen Psaki, circle back Jen Psaki, I think he was asked by a reporter, oh, well, given that the president urges a boycott of Georgia, is the president urging a boycott of the Beijing Olympics? Circle back, Jen quickly, got lost in kind of a flood of meaningless words. But again, he's not going to do that. And obviously, he shouldn't do that. But nonetheless, I mean, if you are going to punish Georgia because you don't like what they do internally in Georgia, then why exactly, you know, is it okay to take part in the Beijing Olympics? So you can just see this utter hypocrisy. I mean, again, Obama's another one. You know, saying, oh well, boycott Georgia. Yet he went off to Cuba, and you know, I remember when he was there with Raul Castro's brother, and they were happily sitting there doing the wave in Havana. Well, you know, I mean, again, that was fine. Nothing wrong with that policy. But if you are going to start punishing Georgia, then what the hell are you doing sitting next to Raul in the baseball game and doing the wave?
Well, minutes before we started this, after we agreed on the topic of this, the first thought that went through my mind, and this happens to me all the time now, did anyone really try to sit down and think this one out? You know, I mean, you see it all over the place with foreign policy, and now this mindset is being rooted in American politics now. Did anybody sit down and, you know, cool their heads, you know, maybe a little decaf coffee and say, what's the logic of how this could work out? No one does. No, you know, listen to Stacey Abrams. This is what you get. Okay, this is what you get. Yep. This is not voter suppression. This is get more people to vote and make it harder to cheat. It's pretty simple stuff.
Exactly.
Get people to vote. Make it easier for people to vote. Right. Okay. But make sure it's not easy to cheat. That's the simple thing.
And of course, all of these things that Biden is talking about, Jim Crow and all of this nonsense, it is simply the way elections are conducted everywhere. You know, you go to France or to Germany and you tell them, well, actually, you know, you can vote in America without showing a photo ID. They would be astonished. Or you can just go and vote whenever and wherever you feel like. You know, you just drop off your ballot at a drop box, you know, next to a hot dog stand, and then that's fine. I mean, and most countries have always said, how do you have an election? Well, you have an election, you have an election day, everybody votes in person on election day, and you show your ID. And so, I mean, and that's the way you conduct election. And absentee voting is the exception. You know, and because it's the exception, you have to impose extra strict rules about it because it's so easy to cheat if it's absentee voting. But no, I mean, these people say, no, let's just, you know, let's have a kind of a free-for-all as there was in 2020. Well, you know, that's just an absurdity. I mean, no serious country can have elections like that.
I'm pretty sure, George, to get the vaccine, you got to show a picture ID.
I think you do. I think you do.
I think you do. Okay. Okay. So maybe we all can find a compromise here. If they're going to go down this ridiculous path of a COVID passport, will that be valid to vote? Can you use your COVID? Well, can we demand that you use your COVID ID to vote? Okay. Again, George, did any of these people sit down and clear their heads and think about this? Okay. As far as I know, there's no place in the world other than the United States, or what they're proposing, is that every country in the world, you have to have photo ID to vote everywhere. I've never heard it otherwise.
Right, right. Well, that's it. I mean, and particularly when, as in the United States, you have so many people who are living there illegally. I mean, that's another issue. After all of these people who have been, Democrats in particular, who have been urging what they call comprehensive immigration reform, is to legalize the 11 million or however many, 20 million, 30 million people who are living illegally. Well, you're going to make sure, therefore, if so many people are living and working illegally in the United States, that only American citizens vote. I mean, that's it. It's in the Constitution. I mean, it's like only citizens of a country get to decide who the rulers of the country are. But again, this is Jim Crow to deny kind of just people who are living illegally to vote. I mean, it's a yeah. And now that's a position of the most powerful corporations in the world.
We used to say one man, one vote. I guess we can say one person, one vote. Fine, I'm willing to say that. Right. But that's not how the Democrats think. They think in terms of blocks, okay? They're not interested in the minutia of the details, okay? I mean, it's really interesting. We need to get the illegals to vote, give them the vote. I mean, in some cities in America, you can vote in municipal elections if you're not a citizen, okay? I mean, and this is that, creeping, effect where it becomes acceptable is that, so what, a tourist flies in from Italy, I'll vote too.
Okay? Yeah. I want to say, I don't like Trump, let me put my vote in against Trump. I mean,
or just have, a campaign, come and participate in America's democracy. We'll put you up in the best hotels and you can vote and you can go back home and say, I voted for a president of the United States.
Right.
And no joke, that's where we are.
Right. Yes. No, that's right. And again, I mean, even this thing, I mean, we talked about this before, this whole thing of, when Biden talked about, they're denying them water, these people, these poor parched voters. I want water. I'm going to die here in this blazing hot sun in November. I mean, all of that is ridiculous, but there is an issue that it's trying to address, which is you can't, have political organizations, offering all kinds of food and drink and everything to people.
Yeah, like getting a hot dog, vote Biden. Getting a bottle of water, vote Biden.
That's right. You can bring your own hot dog. You can bring your own sandwich. You can bring your own water, whatever soft drink. But you can't have political organizations coming along and handing these things out because that's a bribe. And that is illegal. Every state makes it illegal to bribe people to vote.
I mean, I've seen some of the clips from CNN and MSNBC. They're just fundamentally dishonest about it. They're grossly misrepresenting what's going on. I mean, they never quote the law, do they? They never quote it.
Right, that's right. That's right. And as you say, it's on the internet. You go look at the internet. So, but no, they would never want to do that. So you just, again, like we talked before, it just becomes dint of repetition, Jim Crow, Jim Crow, Jim Crow. But I think, Republicans are not very able fighters. And I don't think they're going to, look, I mean, Brian Kemp says, we're standing firm. We're not going to be coerced. This is a guy who was coerced by Stacey Abrams, who signed that bizarre agreement about how to conduct the November election with Stacey Abrams. Is he really going to stand firm against the most powerful corporations in the world? I don't see it.
See, but this is we've talked about this repeatedly. This is the huge disconnect and the real crisis in the Republican Party is that you still have this kind of knee-jerk reaction. It's a reflex for so many of these powerful Republicans not to annoy potential donors, because that's what they're thinking about all of the time. But you have a base of people that think very, very differently. Okay. And the GOP doesn't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. And it is a real crisis. We made a video about Matt Gaetz. We made some suppositions. We made some guesstimates about what's going on here. But for me personally, it's no coincidence they're going after one of the most high-profile populist in the country, and he's being targeted. Maybe for good reason. We don't know yet, okay? But see, anyone that has a high-profile populist message, and that's really much at odds with the Republican leadership. They don't want to hear these kind of things. And it's not because it's for me, they just, again, they haven't thought out the implications of it, because they're being routed right now and they're not putting up much resistance. Okay. And it's because they're out of sync with thinking about what average, what about the workers in Atlanta? I mean, how many Republican senators say, well, what about the workers in Atlanta? I don't hear them saying it.
Exactly. I don't hear it either. Because, and everything that the Biden administration has done, there should be absolute, meat and drink for the Republicans. I mean, you should be able to hit all these things out of the ballpark. I mean, all that it's absolutely, right up there. You have all these Republicans now saying, oh, well, the GOP is now the Workers' Party. Well, show us that it's the Workers' Party. Don't just keep saying, well, it's the Workers' Party. And then when it comes election time, corporate tax cuts. We need more deregulation, more corporate tax cuts. No, show us that you really do support the workers, that you're not on the side of these powerful corporations. And that any attempt by these corporations to coerce democratically elected representatives will be met with, punishment. But they're not going to do it. I mean, Mitch McConnell, I want all this to go away because I want lots and lots of money coming to me. And the same with Kevin McCarthy. I mean, that's all they're thinking about. So they just want to let all this go away. We're on the same side, you guys. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They don't care about the very people whom they say, "Whoa, we're with you."
This example with Georgia is pulling back the veil, because on the airwaves they like to say the Republicans, we stand for this, and the Democrats that it's the typical song and dance, okay, and both sides exaggerate, okay, yep. They do that, but behind the veil is the competition for donors. That's what it's all about, okay? And the Republicans are standing there with their drawers down because they're being outflanked. They're being outflanked. And if you're in Washington, that's all that matters. Policy is what you say when you go on CNN and Fox, okay? But when you're not in front of the television camera, in front of a reporter, it's the hunt for money, okay? And that's what it's all about. And the Republicans have been brilliantly outflanked on this, okay?
Exactly. That's exactly right. They're brilliantly outflanked. And ultimately, these corporations, I mean, much of it, they like to be, as you say, assuage their own white liberal guilt. And there's, so they're pretending to be woke. But ultimately, they also think the Democrats are the winning team. These are corporations making a decision as to which is the winning team, the GOP or the Democrats. They're going with the Democrats. So that, hence they just, whatever the party line issued by the White House or the DNC, the corporations are in sync with that. Because the GOP is not really showing any real fight. Why would anyone think that the GOP is the winning team? I mean, it may be, let's say the GOP wins back the House in 2022. What's going to change? Is anything really going to be different because Kevin McCarthy is now the speaker? I mean, no, it'll be exactly the same. He'll toddle off to the White House and say, "Hey, Joe, what deal can we make today? Let's go for comprehensive immigration reform."
That's right. That is absolutely right. People, this mantra, will win back the House. Well, if you do, so what? Exactly. Because the people that will be in the House, the leadership, is still going to be out. Okay, so they're going to bring up a culture war thing. Okay, Dr. Seuss. Okay, exactly. Which I hate when Republicans go down that path, because they go for the bait. They go for it. Okay, what about working people? I keep saying that. Maybe working people like Dr. Seuss. Okay, maybe they do. But I think people are more interested in having a well-paid job, a future for their children, not living in fear and going into medical bankruptcy. What about these issues? These are real world, real-time issues. When you want to go down the culture war thing, it's at your peril, because Republicans by default lose.
They lose. Exactly. They have this bizarre idea that it's going to win for them. It doesn't win for them because it's ultimately when people go and vote, they don't really vote on these issues. It's an amazing thing. The Republicans are so dumb. They keep thinking they're going to win on issues that may have worked 30, 40 years ago. They don't work it now. Ronald Reagan ran on the issue of tax cuts. All right, that was 40 years ago. It hasn't worked for the Republicans ever since. They've been doing the same thing over and over again, and it doesn't work for them. People are not buying into the tax cuts platform.
That's why I was very, very harsh on Trump when the COVID relief packages were coming out. I was, and I said to you over and over again, where is he? Why isn't he in front of this? Okay, why, when he was still on Twitter saying to the Republicans, you backstabbed me on this, I will primary you around. Okay, and you know why? Because, and there's evidence of this. There's been research of this, particularly with lower income people of color. Why did you vote Republican? Because I got a check with his name on it. Now that changes your life, okay? The fact that you can't read Dr. Seuss anymore, maybe that's something, you know, a memory that you'll have to lose. Right. A $2,000 check, that is meaningful. That's, you Xerox that, you frame it, you put it on your wall.
That's it. That's it. That's exactly right. So here we have these issues. We have this issue, the corporations that are clearly, I mean, you know, if you're a Republican, you say, these people are not our friends. They hate us. They're out to screw us. So why are we doing anything for them? Why are we giving them all these tax breaks? Why are we doing anything, you know, that's to make nice with them? And then you've got the immigration issue. Hey, this is just cheap labor pouring into the country to undercut American workers. I mean, these are wonderful issues that any Republican should just pick it up and run with it. But they're not doing it. You know, where are they? Nowhere. I mean, you know, they're on Hannity. You know, you're talking. You know, whatever it is Hannity talks about.
No, you're absolutely right. Is that you should be? Is that you should? What has to be done for the Republicans is turn it upside down and saying, you know, well, I'll take your money. Okay, but I need your support on this. And I mean, if we're going to play this game, then play it. Okay, because just like you said, I mean, you know, they're not going to be according this money because they'll think that, you know, they've lost the cause that way. No, get out and compete. See, the Republicans won't fight. They don't like competition. Okay, and I really hate this. You know, in principle, I'm again. No, I don't. I know you have no principle, so don't start that way. Okay, I mean, if someone doesn't get on your side, you will have tools to punish them, and you should, okay? That's the rules of the game. The Republicans always say, no, that's off the table. You know, in principle, we want corporate tax cuts. No, if you don't play ball, I'm going to go after you. Okay?
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, it's like, you are the government. You know, we have national sovereignty. National sovereignty means the government is in charge, not the corporations. So if the corporations are using their muscle, you, as the government, have it within your power to bring them to heel. I mean, that's what you do. That's what, so, you know, ever since, you know, the ancient times, which is no one is more powerful than the state. And if somebody thinks that they are more powerful, they are brought to heel. So here it is, you know, these corporations think they get to decide what the legislation is. So you have to make sure, no, you don't get to decide, and we will punish you. And how do you punish them? You end this nonsense of these tax breaks, and the nonsense of how they're cheating on their taxes.
Teddy Roosevelt didn't go after states. He went after monopolies, okay?
Right.
And he made their lives hell, okay? Because these corporations do not supersede the government or the Constitution, okay? And we need a fundamental reordering, and we won't get that if the GOP leadership remains in stasis, okay? Because they're the problem. As you point out repeatedly, the issues, these are softball issues. But if you don't want to catch the ball, the other side is going to win.
Right. That's exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, the Democrats have brilliantly outmaneuvered the Republicans. I mean, it's an astonishing thing that now they've got all of this money is pouring into them. There's the corporations are supporting the Democrats, and the Republicans are really left with their sort of, you know, with their pants down, and they don't know what to do. other than to go on pleading. Oh, well, but we are the party of the tax cuts. We not them. We are on your side. Not them. Please, come back to us.
Yeah, well, that's cold comfort for the gig workers around the All-Star game, isn't it? The interesting thing will be is again, I'll say it for the third time. Did anybody think this out? So where are they going to play this game now? In what state? Are they going to look closely at their election laws? Okay. Are they going to be more, where in the country is going to be more transparent than what Georgia just passed?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You and I will look at it. A few people, maybe Tucker will, maybe a couple of other people, but the mainstream media will completely overlook it because they have a feather and they're wearing in their hat.
No, exactly. Which, like New York is very strict about handing out food and drink to people waiting online. You can't do it in New York. So you're going to make that an issue about the voter dying of hunger and in the horrific heat of a November sun. New York isn't really the place to hang your hat on. All right, Peter, we will, of course, maintain our laser-like focus on economic power and the corporations, because we are all adherents to Karl Marx. We are on Rumble. Please look us up on Rumble. And if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.